In Umuocha, everyone knew Kene. He was 10 years old, small for his age, always barefoot, always with that black exercise book under his arm. He drew in it everywhere, under mango trees, by the borehole, even during Mass when Father Dominic preached about heaven and hell. His drawings were detailed, too detailed for a boy who'd never been beyond the village square. People said God gave him the gift, others whispered that gifts like that always come with a shadow. He mostly drew animals, goats, lizards, chickens, until one Sunday morning when everything changed. Old Mama Uju died in her sleep. That wasn't strange. What was strange was that when her family went to her hut to prepare her body, they found a drawing pinned to her door. A neat pencil sketch of a wooden coffin with her name written under it, Uju Opara. People said it was children's mischief, but when they asked Kene, he didn't lie. "I drew it yesterday," he said simply, "because she's leaving soon." Everyone laughed at first, the kind of nervous laugh that tries to bury fear before it grows teeth. But when she was buried 3 days later, the laughter stopped. Then it happened again. 2 weeks later, the village carpenter Izu was found dead behind his workshop, heart failure, they said. But the night before, someone had seen Kene sitting near his fence, pencil in hand, sketching something quietly. When they searched his book, they found a page, another coffin, neatly drawn, Izu Chukwuma written below in tiny letters. People started locking their doors when they saw him coming. Mothers pulled their children away. Even Father Dominic stopped letting him sit in the front pew. Still, Kene kept drawing. He told anyone who cared to listen, "I don't make them die, I just see it first." Kene's father, Mr. Okchukwu, was the town's prayer warrior, the loudest voice during vigils, always first to cast and bind. But at home he was quiet, as though words could draw spirits closer. When the rumours about his son reached the church elders, they called a meeting. "The boy must be cleansed," said Elder Udo. "He's drawing grave before God calls people." Father Dominic agreed. Gifts without control are curses. That night Mr. Okchukwu beat Kene for the first time in his life. "You'll burn that book tomorrow," he said, voice breaking. "I won't let you bring shame to my house." Kene didn't cry. He just looked at his father with calm eyes that felt too old for 10 years. "If I burn it, what I see will come without warning." "Then let it come," his father snapped. But he didn't burn it. He hid it behind the altar at the small chapel near the stream, the one nobody used anymore since the roof started leaking. That same week, Kene stopped coming to school. He would sit quietly by the roadside, pencil in hand, watching people pass. Sometimes he smiled, sometimes he frowned. The villagers avoided his gaze. Then one evening his father fell ill, sudden and violent. His temperature rose, his voice cracked, his skin burned to the touch. The nurse from town said, "It's malaria." But the way Kene watched him, silent and still, made people whisper otherwise. The next morning there was a drawing on the veranda. A coffin. This time no name. The chapel near the stream was built before Kene was born. Nobody prayed there anymore. They said the place was heavy, that once during a storm, lightning struck the roof 3 times in one night. When Father Dominic heard that Kene had been hiding things there, he sent 2 altar boys to fetch the book. They went after morning mass, but returned pale and shaking. "There's more than one," they said. Father Dominic followed them back, with half the village trailing behind. When they entered, they saw them, dozens of drawings, pinned to the wooden walls like art in an exhibition. Every single one was a coffin, each with a name written beneath in careful block letters. Some were people still alive, some were already gone. And some were names no one recognized. Kene sat in the corner humming to himself, pencil moving across another page. When they tried to grab him, he said calmly, "If I stop drawing, they'll stop resting." Father Dominic tore the book from his hand. "You're possessed," he shouted. "This is abomination." The boy looked at him unflinching. "Then you shouldn't have come today." That night, Father Dominic died in his sleep, heart attack, the nurse said. But his sister swore he had woken screaming about coffins crawling toward him. By morning, one more drawing had appeared on the chapel wall. A coffin. And beneath it, in neat handwriting, Father Dominic N. Nana. By now, fear had settled into Umuocha like harmattan dust. No one wanted to pass Kene's compound. The market women whispered that he drew with bones instead of pencils. The chief called for fasting and prayers, but even he avoided looking the boy in the eye. Mama Kene stopped cooking. She prayed every night, her rosary clinking like nervous teeth. "You have to stop, my son," she begged, "if people keep dying." Kene interrupted her gently. "I don't make them die, Mama, I just tell the paper what's coming." "What if you don't tell it?" He looked at her, sadness deep in his small eyes. "Then it tells me." That night she found him asleep with the book open beside him. But the page was blank, except for faint pencil lines, a rough sketch still forming. When she leaned closer, she gasped. It was her face, half-drawn, eyes closed, arms folded across her chest. She tore the page out and burned it immediately. The next morning she was gone, not dead, just gone. Her clothes were folded neatly on the bed, her shoes by the door. No one ever found her. When Kene woke up, he said softly, "She refused to wait for the coffin." After his mother's disappearance, the village decided to act. They called in a prophet from Eerie, a man known for drying evil rivers. He arrived wearing a white garment and confidence. He entered the chapel with the villagers behind him and Kene sitting silently at the altar, the book in his lap. The prophet began to pray, loud and dramatic, calling fire, calling thunder, calling angels with flaming swords. But the more he shouted, the more the wind outside began to howl. The drawings on the walls fluttered, as though something was breathing through them. Then one by one the pages began to peel off. They lifted gently, floating like feathers, spinning in slow circles. "Stop," the prophet screamed. "Who is doing this?" Kene raised his head. "They're not done," he said quietly. "There's still one left." "What one?" the prophet demanded. Kene turned the last page in his book, held it up. It was blank. He looked around the room, then pointed at the prophet. "You," he said softly. "They said your name was too long to write." The man stumbled backward. The oil lamp near the altar flickered, went out. A scream followed, short, sharp, and the smell of smoke filled the air. By dawn, the prophet was gone. Only his staff remained, lying beside a fresh drawing pinned to the door. A coffin. Unlabeled. Kene stopped speaking after that night. He didn't draw for days. The villagers said the silence was relief, maybe the curse had ended. But on the 7th day, he took his book and went to sit by the old mango tree near the chapel. A small crowd followed at a distance, cautious, curious. He opened a fresh page, sharpened his pencil and began to draw, slowly, carefully. When someone dared to ask who it was for, he said without looking up, "For the last person who still believes it's a curse." The chief stepped forward nervously. "And who is that?" Kene smiled, eyes still on his page. "Everyone." The sound that followed wasn't thunder. It was more like tearing cloth, deep, endless wrong. The ground trembled. The wind picked up, scattering dust and dried leaves. When they reached him, he was gone. Only the book remained, open on the last page. It was a drawing of dozens of coffins, side by side, stretching far beyond the paper, fading into white. And in the center, a small boy sitting quietly with a pencil. His face was peaceful. Weeks later, the chapel collapsed in a storm. The villagers rebuilt a small shrine where it once stood, to appease what draws what it sees. No one mentioned Kene again, but sometimes at dusk, people swore they saw a barefoot boy near the stream, sketching in the sand. And every year before Harmattan, someone in Umuocha would die, peacefully, silently, with a faint mark on their hand. A mark shaped like a tiny pencil line.